And do you think AI is making that harder? I know it's a bit of a buzzword at the moment, but obviously are hackers using AI, for instance, for that speed? Or has that always been happening anyway?
I think it's about amplification of attack. So how quickly can you make the attack more effective by how do you scale it up? So certainly there's elements of AI that are now being used. I mean, if you look at phishing, right? When we look at phishing, how good are phishing emails now getting? They're really, really good. You know, I'd like you to pay me £3,000. I'm an Arabian prince and I will give you 4 camels and a donkey. We'd normally spot that as complete stupidity. Now it's spoken in perfect English. It's in context of maybe something that you've been talking to somebody about before.
Yeah.
And it's a lot more believable. And what they're also doing is they're taking advantage of our sense of fear and sense of urgency. So what they're doing now is because those things are becoming more believable, they're now stacking on things like sense of urgency to get us to click on those links.
So AI is just making the hackers better and better.
Yeah, I mean, let's not forget that AI can be used for good as well. So we're using AI and machine learning in our correlation engines within our SOC to enable us to make decisions faster and make better decisions. And maybe automation, a bit more automation to pick up that heavy lifting. So when we're looking into an attack, you know, there's so many things we've got to look at as where have we seen it before? Has anybody seen this before? Typically when they do this, what do they then do next? How do we defend against it? What was good? What was bad? What was indifferent? And how do we need to change our detection capabilities to cope with it going forward? So there's so much more context that needs to be brought into AI. But yeah, absolutely. Have we got to the point where malicious actors are taking code, putting it into an engine in AI and making it worse? Yes. Have we got it to a point where we're going to be defending against robots? We're not quite there yet, but I don't think it's far off.
I mean, also, I think you need to consider when you talk about malicious actors, actually, it's no longer just nation states or professional organizations that can ultimately attack your organization. It can now be a 16-year-old lad with his computer at home. So yes, there's simply more potential threats now to your organization, and even probably creating an attack is a much simpler process than it once was.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, you know, we used to talk 10, 15 years about script kiddies, right? You know, they were the people that really didn't know how to hack. What they did was took somebody else's code, used it probably badly, got detected and got arrested very quickly. Now, essentially, there's some very mature tools out there on the internet. With the advent of YouTube now, everybody is actually learning a hell of a lot quicker. And you know, we were talking just before this podcast about the rate at which people are learning is accelerating because the new genres of people are now starting to learn via video. So they can actually take a good tool set, learn about how to be believable, mash that together, and then they can actually bring other people into their circle of trust as well, because it's not just one person now. People realise, well, you're good at the social engineering aspect, so we'll get you to focus on making that phishing email believable. You're good at the coding piece, and you're actually good at the scaling piece. So you might have 3 people that are all involved in that.
So all I'm hearing is it's a lot more sophisticated across the board, and I can imagine with the legacy antivirus, it's not sophisticated enough to deal with that. It's bringing it back to antivirus, is that right?
Absolutely. You know, some of the things we've just talked about here, they're not built in that world. They're built in a world where, as we said back before, you put it on the devices that you're trying to protect to avoid things being added to the devices you're trying to protect from getting installed. And this is very different to that.
It's very different. And one of the other elements we haven't touched on is 0 day, right? So if you look at legacy is, I know something's going to happen. I've got a pattern file, I've got an antivirus, right? Yeah. Great. But what happens when you get a day 0 attack, a day 0 where there is no antivenom, there is no antivirus? You need to start looking at understanding behavior and actually understanding intent to be able to defend against those type of things. And the speed at which these attacks are happening again, if you think about, don't worry, there's an update, it's coming out tonight. I think, when you look at antivirus vendors, typically the time it takes, depending on the sophistication, to get a pattern file out there used to be a couple of days. Now it's a couple of hours. But when people are attacking at the speed they're attacking, fastest breakout time recorded in 2025 is 3 minutes. So that's the point at which an individual picks a target and can get persistence into that organization. So in other words, I pick you as a target, I can now come back at will, and then the world is my oyster. I can sit there, gather information over a long period of time to figure out where the crown jewels are. I can sit there and gather credentials. I can harvest those credentials, put them on the dark web, get paid for that. That's my job done, away you go. And then I can sell that on to the next actor who will actually exploit that.
Yeah, absolutely.